that's on our lap, and we're,
Yeah,
Right.
it's only for, $40, $50 million.
the turf committee that worked 3 or 4 years or more maybe to get that done, they were energized and they worked and they found a way of making it happen. So, looking at the other side of the fence, right, a committee could in fact find something that needs to be done and maybe be very
Turf-
successful in
what the turf
finding
committee
funds
found
to
was-
do it, right?
What the turf committee found was a willing subject and a sympathetic ear at Hillview after they were first turned down 3 years earlier, flat out. But as their debt service dropped.
Well, they found a point when it was
Right,
affordable,
The debt
right?
service was dropping off, and then it became affordable again. This is a pretty significant undertaking. And again, it's something that should be brought to the board's attention on a regular basis, as far as upgrading, first of all, upgrading our sidewalks and filling in the gaps. And I know that the planning commission has attempted over the years to help augment those funds, but they just haven't gone far enough, because the cost of filling in those gaps, most of the gaps where the sidewalk gaps are around town now are very difficult and very costly to fill. So we've done a pretty good job of connecting those places where we could and where it was cost effective. But if you look at Central Street, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to put a sidewalk on Central Street, just because of the trees and the ledge and everything that's there. You can't do it. You're gonna have a whole host of gaps instead of the whole stretch of road. And it's probably one of the most dangerous stretches of road that we have. So it's, sidewalks in and of themselves have been studied over the years, off and on, and it all comes down to dollars and cents. Now, when you're talking about specifically enforcing the bylaw, we don't need an advisory committee to do that. We need to address it. And
Well,
No, I think the issue, I think, Steve, the issue there was, from the town side, what policy should we put in place associated with dealing with what we would consider to be the town's
Well,
responsibility?
it's twofold. What is the town's responsibility anyway? We have it under the bylaw ourselves anyway, the town, quote unquote. But also the enforcement of the bylaw, which has been highlighted over the last season. And we never have enforced it. It's been on the books for a number of years. And we just let it slip by because we didn't want to impose on the local businesses or enforce it. Certain town departments didn't want to take ownership of who was responsible for policing it. And this season forced that mechanism to be put into place. So at least now we have a pretty good idea as to who's going to be doing what. And now it just came down to the question of whether we're going to enforce it or not. And it's on the bylaws, they're on the books. It's on the books. So either we're going to enforce it or we're going to change it.
Well,
Right.
that snow and ice bylaw has to be rewritten. There's no doubt about that. I think maybe, great idea here, Jeff. I think maybe the idea is to start small, start with a small committee advisory that deals with the snow and ice removal bylaw. Get that going and see how successful that committee is, and see if there's any traction that committee can.
Not without ice, no traction.
And see where it goes from there. That'd be my suggestion. Start small, start with that one pinpointed issue. So we have something that's in place and it's workable by, October town meeting.
If I mean, that's one of the first, that's the first, pretty much, first item that I have on the priorities is to review that bylaw. As far as your suggestion of thinking small, this all wraps in together, and I think that's what I labored over was that I wanted to keep it to the sidewalks, but every time I looked at it, it grew. And it grew because it couldn't help but do that. So if you have a committee that's just gonna be sitting there for the sidewalk and snow removal, all right, it's gonna grow anyway. And now we're talking outside of what our parameters are. And I don't want that to happen, all right? I want us to be able to have at least a guideline. And we may only, our only intent right now, primarily, our initial goal would be to deal with the bylaw and snow removal. But if we didn't, if you didn't have the committee, you'd still have the law, the bylaw, and you'd still have to enforce it, and so that would take care of itself anyway. Okay, so you wouldn't need, you don't
Well,
really need a committee just to remove snow, you need a committee to go beyond
My
that.
idea would be to get the business community on this committee.
No, I do, they're there.
Oh, I know, but with the focus being the snow and ice removal.
Well, that would be the first priority. That's, you know,
Okay.
maybe, would you accept any input from the audience on this? Or is this just to?
I'm thinking that, I'm thinking along the lines of Sean, because what it means is that you've defined a task to straighten out an issue, and it's an issue we have to straighten out.
Right.
Right? And it becomes a success, and it's done. And then, you know, if we want to think about something else after that, fine, but you've expanded the scope beyond what I originally had talked about back when we, you know, dealt with this whole snow and ice issue, so. And again, it still comes back to my concern about energizing a group. They go off gung-ho to do a whole bunch of things, and they come back and,
Well, you know,
it
let me backtrack on that, okay? I don't know if it's fair to compare one group of people with another group of people. I think that the intent here is advisory. It's really that simple, and if we have a problem as an advisory, that we're giving you advice, that's our job, all right? Once we give you the advice, we're putting it into your hands, and that's fine.
yeah, but it puts us in
I
a
can-
bad position,
Jack.
because if we
No,
can't
no.
react, then they look at us and say, oh, they don't pay any attention to what that
Before I
committee's
present
recommending.
anything to the board, there would be correspondence, informational updates to make it worthwhile to make the presentation. And if we made a presentation, it would be on the basis of, it's a presentation and it's informative, and we're just letting you know if you think it's a good idea. I wouldn't want to position an advisory board to make a presentation that is, you know, doomed for failure, so to speak. There's no reason to do that.
Jeff, speaking as the liaison to the FAC, I think I can get to what Bob's trying to convey to you, is that there was 12, 13 members that started, very well intended, a lot of ideas, but the members get very discouraged when they put their time and effort into researching and coming forward and giving a presentation. And for a whole host of reasons, those proposals or ideas don't get implemented. And so what you have is people that get discouraged and say, I can find something better to do with my time than to invest all this time and energy in researching and coming and making a presentation, and the board doesn't do anything with it. That's as a member of a committee. Understanding there's a whole host of reasons on this side of the table why those ideas may not go anywhere.
And I'm on this side, and I understand that, and that's part of my responsibility to the board that the committee that I'm the liaison to, is to share that information and to make sure that they understand what we're working with, what we're up against, and what we're trying to accomplish, all right? And if it's an advisory role, I would not go under the misconception that once I advise you, you're going to do what I ask you to do. That might have been an issue with the FAC, but it's not an issue, would not be an issue with the committee that
You
I'm
can't-
involved with.
Jeff, this is my final word on this. You can't say that because it's impossible for you to, unless, maybe you should be the liaison to the FAC then. That's what I suggest to you.
I didn't want this to go in that direction.
No,
All
but what I'm saying
to
is you
All I'm
can't-
saying to you is that.
It's just natural for people to invest time and their energies in researching an issue and coming before this board, and this board, for whatever reason, doesn't adopt a proposal. It's just natural for those people to get discouraged and look to go do something else with their time. It's just natural, whether it's this board they're presenting to or some other board or committee that they're presenting to.
See, if you narrow the scope of this back to the snow and ice thing, you gotta win. Because these people are gonna go off and, you know, they're gonna look at the snow and ice issue that we've gotta deal with anyway, and we've gotta make some kind of decision. And I think we all agree that the bylaw probably needs to be tweaked a little bit. right? And, you know, I think you end up with a win, and fine, now you've done, these people feel like
And
they've
we're done.
accomplished something, and now if you wanna carve out of it another project that, might make sense, you know, this one's behind us, and we've accomplished something, rather than it just blowing up in our face. I learned a lesson over the FAC.
Well, so did
Because
I.
these people were very good people. I was extremely impressed. They were citizens that weren't involved with anything else. They had good skill sets, and they come up with a lot of good ideas. Some of them which, you know, we've either implemented or we will implement in the future, and others that we can't go anywhere with. You know, we got a collective bargain, some of the recommendations, and, you know, it's not necessarily in our control either at that point. And so they put in all this energy, and it's been volunteer energy, and then they turn around and say, well, the board's not even listening to us, and the next thing you know, how many people have left?
Oh, we've lost 8 to 9.
8 to 9 good people. And they may, those people may never come back and volunteer for another committee, and that's my concern.
I don't, it's.
I'm willing to admit the errors my
This is
way.
what- Well, I wasn't part of those errors, and my approach is a little bit different, but would you mind if someone from the audience would like to?
If there's somebody who wants to make a comment,
I
to
would.
hear it. At this point, I'd like to cut this off
Yeah,
I
I
would.
want to
before it
make
gets too much
I've
longer.
been
on
here
this
since
mission
7:30
statement. Did you see the
waiting
last
for this
sentence?
topic.
They're gonna
So
last
I wasn't informed of
10
that.
meetings.
I was wondering why you were
Well,
here.
but ask them that.
Not just to hear budgetary items.
No.
As a walking citizen that walks year-round, I was one of the people that actually started complaining about snow removal, which is why you were enforcing the bylaw. The bylaw was enacted 8 years ago. This was the first year it was addressed. It's because of the citizens.
Mhm.
I don't know how many of you actually walk or jog, but every day that I'm walking with my dog, I see people all times of day walking. Between the years of 1990 and 2000, North Reading saw a 20% jump in population. It was the fastest growing community in Massachusetts. I heard earlier how there were more developments coming into the town, which means more people that will be driving and walking and jogging or rolling in their wheelchairs. These are the people that need their voices heard. And it's not just for snow removal. There's other issues. We can bring advice on all issues regarding things like grants. Some of us do see grants that come around from the state or from federal entities that relate to pedestrian issues. And so we understand that sometimes it might take time for certain things to happen. We understand that there's no money tree out there that we can all go out and pick money from and have instant solutions. However, this pedestrian advisory commission should be used not only for snow removal, but for any type of issue that relates to traffic in general. And as a town that's growing as fast as North Reading is, I just can't understand why our services aren't being fully embraced.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I'd like to mention to Jeff too, Jeff, I don't know if you're gonna redo this proposal, but I had a concern with the last sentence of your mission statement, that the committee will serve as a facilitator of all state and federal funded improvements for any and all related pedestrian access areas. Are you saying they would be attending like meetings with the state, with money coming into North Reading, or?
Well,
I mean,
that really has to do with grants. A lot of committees in other towns are able to secure grants and get some programs going. And-
okay.
And I
So that's
use
only
that-
for grants
and
then?
That, yeah.
Okay, because it does, I mean, I'm looking at this like if District 4 is having a hearing on a section of 28 that they're gonna redo, and it's gonna have sidewalk access, this committee's gonna attend it.
Would
but
they
I-
not be allowed to?
Oh, no, they would be allowed to, but I'm
Okay.
saying though, but I mean, are you
At no
biting off
cost
too
to the
much
town.
of one bite?
Right.
You know
Well,
what I'm
that-
saying?
Right. Now,
Yeah.
I think what you're worried about is that